the psychological skills of leaders. So I hope by the end of this presentation, you'll take away a few psychological skills and tools that I'll present to you. Now, if you look at my title, Leadership Tools for Healthy Pursuit of Perfection, I spoke with a psychologist who's my friend. She works for the New York penal system. And so I told her this topic, and she said, I hate to tell you this, but there is no perfection. So this was on my way to the conference. I wrote back to her and I said, thanks, you totally ruined my whole presentation. What am I gonna do now? But we went on to have a conversation about what perfection means. And even though perfectionism receives a lot of bad publicity, especially from researchers focused on unhealthy ways of pursuing perfection, there are ways to pursue being perfect in healthier ways. And so that's what this presentation is about, those healthier ways to pursue what is perfect to you. It's an ideal, it's a goal, but it doesn't mean it has to be what most people think of as the very perfect example. Some examples would be for a doctor or a surgeon who has to make what they would consider the perfect cut. Or for a golfer who's trying to sink the perfect putt. So those are examples, and right before I arrived here, I was watching the Boston Red Sox. Hitting that ball with the bat, boy, you just gotta be right, a perfect swing to hit the ball. So there are things in life that we have to pursue to be perfect in those things. So piggybacking on the previous speaker in art, this obviously is not a perfect art piece. And frankly, this is me in a dress. My daughter created this. And those are you, the green and red clay circles. So unless you're all aliens dressed in these dapper clothes, this is not a perfect representation of you. However, over time as an artist, we try to perfect our skills. Now, here we look at this art over an artist's time who has perfected their skills. Okay, the exact symmetry, the detail of every person in this art piece, this perfection takes time. And all of us have something like this on almost a daily basis where we're aiming to be perfect. So my goal is to give you some skills on both sides. As a leader, we are trying to pursue our own perfection in different ways. But then as a leader, we also have to guide others to pursue what is perfect for them. So these are some skills on both sides. If we are pursuing perfection, and we also as a leader want to understand the healthy psychological ways to pursue perfection. First, healthy coping skills. One tool I can give you to think about this is to consider taking a survey. Because if I asked you now, how do you cope with failure? Would you know right off the top of your mind? There are scales you can complete that will indicate to you what it means and what ways you cope with failure. So the ways of coping scale is one type of tool you can use to gauge your ways of coping. Cognitive behavioral mindfulness. One tool you could use is journaling. Use a journal to consider how you keep track of what you're thinking and what you're doing on a daily basis. Metacognition is thinking about the ways you think. In terms of pursuing perfection, how are you thinking? Is it healthy in this way to pursue perfection? Self-motivation. What ways do you use to self-motivate yourself? Are they healthy ways? For example, there is a dichotomy, and others have mentioned it. Do I do what I do because I'm fearing failure? Is that my motivator? Or do I do what I do to pursue success? The healthier option is doing what you do to pursue success, rather than fearing failure. Now, ways that people can do this is through videos, TED Talks, using motivational music. Those are different ways of getting yourself self-motivated. Next is hopeful visualizations. And I just recently read a research study about detailed visualizations. How many of you are procrastinators? You may not want to admit it, so. One way to overcome procrastination is to go through this process of creating a dream board. That's another tool where you can, in a very detailed way, imagine the future. Imagine what you want to succeed at. And this includes not just, oh, I want to do this, but what process are you going to take day by day to get there? And so very detailed visualizations of what you want to achieve. Lastly, on this side is focused self-hypnosis. I know many people see the word hypnosis, and you may think of television shows from the past where the psychologist was swinging a shiny object and trying to hypnotize people to do silly things. But this is not that type of hypnosis. This is a type of hypnosis and a tool you could use called creating a script. Creating a script of the psychological skills you want to approach day in and day out to accomplish your goals. For me, I recorded a script of the psychological skills and the goals I have every day that I listen to every morning in order to avoid distraction. And so this keeps me on the path to what I'm trying to achieve. On this other side, we have the leadership psychology tools. So this is coming from the perspective of the leader. First is altruism. As many of our speakers have mentioned, we must have the ultimate goal to improve the welfare of others. That is why we become a leader. We want to help others achieve their goals. And this includes instant feedback, getting a sense of how people are doing. And this might include, on a daily basis, having a checklist. That's another tool of who we influence and how are we influencing them. Are we helping them be better in terms of intellectual stimulation? Are we giving people time so that they can exercise? Caring about people in these various ways. That's the most important piece, to me, of leadership, is caring about others. Character strengths, and those of you who may be interested in positive psychology, this term character strengths may be familiar to you, and there's an excellent assessment of what your character strengths are. In leadership, it helps to focus on this positive side because the research indicates that cohesion is much better in positive relationships where we get to know each other. And so knowing others' character strengths on our team can help us connect, and we can also accentuate those. Next, consistent rituals of excellence. There's a great story about a swimmer who needed to improve 4 seconds over 4 years. Consistent excellence was his calculation of, okay, I need 1 second per year better. And he broke that down day by day. How much do I need to improve every single day to reach that goal? What is that to you? What is your big goal, and how can you break it down to these rituals of excellence day by day? What measurable improvement can you make? And as a leader, we also want to be able to empower others. One way of doing this is using a profile of psychological skills to empower people to see that you can get through this. You may experience failure. That's an important piece of this, to acknowledge, even though you're pursuing perfection, you will experience failure. And being able to cope with that failure in positive ways through these psychological skills. And lastly is this life balance with boundaries. We want to make sure that we, as a leader, understand, and there is a tool that we can have them submit a weekly schedule, broken down from Sunday to Saturday, hour by hour. How are you completing every area of wellness? Are you having time to exercise? Are you having time for spiritual connections and meaningfulness in your life? And if we have this in mind, we can help people set these healthy boundaries that prevent them from burnout, prevent them from getting overly anxious, or prevent them from failure. This last slide, and very quickly because it's my time, ways to implement this. What we have to remember with psychological skills of leadership is that it's very similar to physical skills. For me, I'm a tennis player, and to hit that perfect serve takes practice. I can't just go out there and expect to be perfect. Psychological skills are the same way. You have to practice these skills to get better. And you can do this through tracking of your daily progress, seeking your leadership mentors, and also building your own expert panel of leaders. Listening to the feedback that you ask for from your team, and also continually implementing these small planned improvements every day. But in terms of staying psychologically healthy, always remember that the journey has to be enjoyable. Because when we pursue perfection, we can become very serious in many dimensions of our lives and skip important things like social support. So we have to remember, on the journey to perfection, it's very important to find ways to be happy and savor our accomplishments. Thank you very much, and I also wanted to thank our team.